Hey everybody, Rob Ferretti here, and today we're going to talk about the most overlooked thing when buying a car. And it's not an inspection, it's depreciation. And next to me I have my Acura NSX. It's gone up in value since I bought it. A lot of guys ask me like, hey, should I buy this car? What's a good car that I should buy for this amount of money that's going to go up in value? You got to get that out of your head. Appreciation on cars doesn't happen often, and when it does, it's really difficult to predict unless it's like a really low mile car, and it's a risky game. Even if you buy the brand new 488 Scuderia Speciale, whatever, you buy that, there's a good chance you're going to lose $100,000 before it eventually goes up $200,000. So that's something that people can't shoulder that risk. There's no like, just write a check for $200,000 and get back $400,000. It doesn't exist. It doesn't work like that. And usually that's what leads to a bubble, that people think that it works like that. And now you have all these people holding cars that they maybe should or shouldn't have that are going to eventually be worth less than they paid for it. And that's what happens when you run out and buy a $450,000 Ford GT thinking it's going to be worth $600,000 because a month and a half ago it was worth $350,000. It's much more difficult to predict appreciation than it is depreciation. So now let's work on the depreciation. Why should you care so much? Well, when you get insurance on a new car, what is an insurance that they sell you that should be the number one thing that you should be like, whoa, what's that? It's gap coverage. What's gap coverage? Gap coverage means I'm going to sell you an insurance that if your car gets crashed or when your car gets crashed, if it gets totaled out, your loan value is going to be more than the car is worth. That's a huge problem. You never want to enter a loan where you have negative equity. And the only reason for that is because cars depreciate so heavily. And I'm going to use 3 examples today because I've picked up the last generation of Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and McLaren. So like 3 $300,000 MSRP cars after 3 years. Why after 3 years? A, because it was sort of just a model change where you went from the 12C to the 650, you went from the 458 to the 488, and then you went from the Gallardo to the Huracan. So you're getting effectively the best variant of the previous generation car, and it's still under warranty and right towards the edge of the warranty now. So where are the values? So you're going to look at it and you're going to see clear as day picture as to which cars are the smart buy. And I'm going to look at this in a objective way and not look for a 48,000 mile 2014 McLaren or anything like that. I'm going to take virtually new cars that people bought, drove 1,500 miles a year on. That's virtually no driving. So you look at 3,000 to 5,000 mile cars that once cost $300,000. The first thing you're going to see is Ferraris are pretty strong, and you're going to the only thing I have to show you here, because there's not a lot of results as far as sold vehicles that you can find on like Manheim, which I looked up the Manheim numbers. Virtually no Ferraris go through Manheim. You see 1 or 2 every now and then, but most of them don't because they sell well, they sell quickly, and it's indicative of a strong resale market on it. Now you go over to eBay, cars.com, whatever you want. eBay, you see that a lot of people for a 2014 458 Spider, which was plus minus 300,000. Figure anywhere from a bare bones 458 Spider up to a fully optioned one, 280 to 330 or 350. And they're still selling for about $250,000, plus minus 5 or 10 grand. That's a very strong number for a soon to be out of warranty car that's now 3 years old. That means the previous generation or the previous owners didn't really lose very much money. If they paid $300,000 for a car and lose $10,000 a year, $20,000 or $15,000 a year for 3 years of ownership, that's really not that bad. You then go over to the Gallardo, and the Gallardo didn't fare as well. Getting a Gallardo, last year Gallardo Spider, LP550-2, LP560-4, could have been a $300,000 car. The sticker was probably a little bit lighter than the Ferrari, but you can get them like easily in like the 160s to 175 range. Like you look at the buy it now, you look at the other different buying options, you can't just go off of what it's listed for. And one of the things that you'll notice on a lot of these cars is they're all listed, and when you look, you'll see the same car listed in completed listings on eBay multiple times because a lot of people want full retail out of them and they don't always get them. So what you see them listed for is probably 5% higher than they're selling for with those cars. So if it's listed for $250, there's a good chance it's sold for $240 or it's going to sell for $240. So that's where you adjust the market correction as far as what it's actually worth versus what they're being listed at. Then you switch over to so we've covered the Ferrari, covered the Lamborghini, now move over to the McLaren. The McLaren's practically a giveaway. McLaren window stickers on like a 650, a 12C Spider. Mine personally, I had one for $330,000 and I had one for $285,000. When we sold ours, and that was about 3 years old at the time, we sold it for $1.25 for a coupe. Mind-boggling. That car depreciates like a brick. It did not fare well at all. So now you're taking just take an average $300,000 McLaren. It's lost half of its value in 5,000 miles. Half. You've lost $150,000 on your car just driving it casually. So the cost of ownership on that, although you're like, oh, well, I didn't have a lot of maintenance, it's under warranty, the cars are about to be out of warranty. Now you have to worry about maintenance expenses on top of this. Luckily, the Gallardo and the 458 are pretty solid with maintenance expense. McLaren's, not so much. That's sort of like a hidden gremlin that you don't know, oh, what's going to happen? I'm going to buy this car and have big maintenance bills, and it's going to be disproportionate to the value of the car. So people seem to be okay with big maintenance bills if it's a $1 million car and they get a $70,000 service, like whatever, it's a $1 million car. I don't like any big services, to be honest with you, but I'm sort of okay with it. McLaren that we had, and this is one of the reasons I think the value is really suffering on a used McLaren, especially one that's about to be out of warranty, is that we had to change a steering rack, and it was like $35,000 through the dealership. The brakes are expensive, everything. It's got these little electrical issues. It all gets really expensive and disproportionately expensive. So when there's no real option to fix it cheaply, people sort of step away, if that makes sense. So now let's look at it overall. You have three cars, $300,000 a piece. 3 years later, the Ferrari costs maybe $15,000 a year to own. And remember, these cars are all depreciated fairly significantly in their depreciation curve because the new model is out. So the new guy, the Huracan, is out. The 720 and the 650 is out, replacing the 12C. So these are all yesterday's news. And so the steeper part of the depreciation curve is already hit. It's still only $15,000 a year from new to own that Ferrari. It's more expensive to own the Lamborghini, probably closer to $30,000 to $40,000 a year to own the Lamborghini from new. And then the McLaren, even worse, $50,000 or more to own a McLaren from new. And that's a tough pill to swallow. And we're not talking big mile cars that are daily drivers. We're talking about cars that have been driven casually on the weekends during a season. You're talking 5,000 miles over 3 years is not a lot. So what does that mean? It's a great time to buy. So go find yourself a used car at these market values. I think the Ferraris are probably going to be they're always going to be the easiest to predict as far as depreciation goes. The Lambos are always going to be a great buy, especially the LP560s, LP550s, because they're great cars. And for like $150,000 to $170,000 with 5,000, 8,000, 12,000 miles on them, they're fairly reliable. You're not going to get any sneaky maintenance on it, and you're going to love your purchase because I don't see them going much further. The earlier model Gallardos and everything like that, they've lost most of their value already. There's 15,000 of them out there, so there's a lot of those Gallardos out there to choose from. The newer, later model of 13s, the 14s, great buy between, and now we're entering 13 and 14, great buy in the 130 to 160 range because your depreciation curve, it's already come down here. It's going to be much more gradual, maybe level out altogether. And lastly, the McLarens, it's a good buy performance-wise when it works, but I'd probably stay away from it. There's a reason it's cost $50,000 or taken such a depreciation hit. One, it was a fairly unknown platform. Even though it was a great performer, you stick anyone behind the wheel of that and they're like, yeah, baby, this is awesome. But when it breaks, it gets expensive, and that is really going to hurt resale, and that's going to limit the amount of people that want to jump in and buy it. Warranties are not readily available for cars like that. You'd have to go with an aftermarket warranty, and aftermarket warranties, even if they start warrantying a model because they don't have a lot of experience with it, as soon as they start writing out big claims for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year and you're paying them 3 or 4, that game's going to come to an end. So thank you guys for watching. Keep an eye on the depreciation curve. That is something you should try to predict when you're buying a car. It's something you never want to have negative equity in a car. And honestly, it sucks for some guy to have a brand new Ferrari and it only costs him $15,000 a year to own it. Yet there's another guy going out and spending $300,000 in a McLaren or a Lamborghini and losing $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year. I could tell you what, I rather own the Ferrari. It's a much more pleasant experience when you get to keep more of the money that you invest in your cars. Thank you for watching. I hope this was informative. If you found it informative, then I don't know, ring the little bell. There's a little subscribe thing, and then next to it's a little bell, and that bell says like, yo, I really like these guys' videos. So when it comes up, they're gonna throw you a little notification in the corner. Catch you next time. I'm gonna drive my now appreciated car, which is, again, don't try to judge appreciation. You can easily lose there. I will catch you next time. Spaghetti out.